It's time for Transport Line, the program that showcases the contributions of all modes of transportation to the socio-economic growth and development of our country, Africa, and the rest of the world. Transport Line is being beamed to you from the Center of Excellence, the state of aquatic splendor, and Africa's second largest economy, Lagos. I am Shina Elegbede. Glad to know that you are keeping us company. The rainy season is here. And for those of us who travel constantly on the road modes of transportation, safety aspect of it calls for concern, especially for those articulated vehicles, that is light trucks and tankers. That is light trucks and tankers that carry wet products. Wet products in terms of PMS and gasoline. The way these big vehicles are being handled is a big cause of concern for those of us who commute daily on our roads, especially when it rains. So, what do? What should be done to prevent incessant light trucks discharging their content on the road because they somersault or they overturn? Are there laws, are there regulations that guide how these products are loaded and how they should be moved from point A to B? I have with me in the studio a public affairs analyst who will discuss with me on these issues of how those in authority should make sure that the laws guiding the movement of inflammable products are really strictly adhered to and implemented. Adeyinka Aderibigbe is my guest. He's a public affairs analyst and a prominent newspaper editor. Adeyinka, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's nice being here with you.
Adeyinka, I've said it. The way we hear today, you will hear a tanker fully loaded with PMS or disolent overturned, spill its products on the road, and before you know it, people surround it as scooping fuel or disolane. And in most cases, calamity will strike because fire will engulf people and we have disaster. What should be done? Or are we really operating without a law that guides the movement of inflammable products on our road?
Let's take it like this. Let's say that taking wet products on our roads ab initio is a no-no. There is a means of transportation for wet products, and that is piping them. That is why you have the pipelines as a mode of transportation. But in a situation like what we have in Nigeria, where as a result of vandalism, as a result of deliberate act of sabotage by elements within and outside that are contending with, governments and their agents, we now are forced to begin to take this very sensitive and inflammable product on the road. And, it's a huge challenge on itself because the road is not where it's supposed to be. So even if the roads are always in their prime point, as in very good. The sheer pressure that are exerted on the roads will in no time make them give way. And don't forget, these vehicles are very sensitive and are easily prone to being tipped, especially with any uneven road surface. So the more of the pressure we mount on the road, the more of the tragedy we continue to have. Because unfortunately for us, we are in a situation where we don't even have the resources. Before it was scarce. Now it's not even available for us to deploy as it should have been expected on the roads. So you find a situation where 90% of the roads are in a very bad shape. And these commodities must move from the point of import or the point of production as it is now with our capacity to produce locally. You now have a situation where there is heavy concentration of these vehicles on the road. The major producer, for instance, is already thinking of importing a huge number of CNG trucks. You ask me, why trucks in the first place? Because whether they are CNG, whether they are petrol, the fact is that the fact that they will still be on the road is still the challenge. Notwithstanding the economic value that will bring in terms of safety, in terms of compliance with global energy demands and environmental impact of it. But the fact remains that still putting that number on the road and those trucks now potentially still having to contend with what is already the size of these things on the road poses a very great challenge for us. And that for me is where the real task is. That the government must, as much as possible, take us back to how we can get these things done safer and better through the pipelines. Well, in other words, make the pipelines safer for all of us. And that is why you discover that it was so done that each geopolitical zone have their point of lifting. For the southwest, it is Ore. And so from Lagos here, the Escravos, then you have the Ore there, and then the east, the north have theirs. So if we do that, we take the trucks to almost the last mile, and then there's so much relief on the major arteries of the nation. Until we do that, we will continue to have these challenges. And unfortunately, we are now in a situation where the parts of these trucks are rockets. They are just high up there. Ordinary tire. If you hear how much it is now, not to talk of brakes, not to talk of the calipers, not to talk of... So there's no element of those trucks that are cheap again. And so you find that, especially now, with the private sector involvement, all these small end investors owning 1-2 trucks or maybe 10 in a fleet, the cost of maintaining those vehicles is just is unbearable for many of them. And so they continue to manage. And when you manage such a truck, It's just an accident waiting to happen.
Thank you, Adeyinka. I think before we really look at deeply into the issue of the trucks itself, we need to look at two important things. The source of loading, either through tank farms or through the various, like we have now locally produced from the refinery. Also, the issue of man, the most important, that handles these trucks. Man, the psychological frame of mind of them. But before we go into that, Adeyinka, we look at the source of lifting, tank farms and the refineries. Tank farms, there are certain procedures that are supposed to be followed. The tanker itself, the tankers that convey these inflammable products, they are supposed to be well tightened when loaded, so that in case of an accident, they are not prone to spill the content on the road. But that has not happened. What you have is that immediately there is an accident, petroleum products are on the road, gasoline are on the road. What should be done? Who and who are those that are not doing their jobs?
Well, I think appropriate government agencies are trying within the limits of bearable limits to ensure that Nigerian economy itself is not asphyxiated. You know, this thing is a propellant of the economy. So you can't ordinarily say you will, or so I assume, say you will enforce the laws in totality. So you find that FRSC, for instance, the Federal Road Safety Corps, is supposed to be in charge of, principally in charge of, the safety situations and concerns. LASTMA is supposed to be involved, even the VIS, to know the state of the vehicles and all of that. All of them are supposed to be involved even before they get to the loading point. Then the government must have a structure in place, an infrastructure base to capture them, to now release them to go and load. You have what we call the electronic call-up that government now wants to introduce on the Lekki-Epe corridor. I'm talking of Lagos State. And the federal government has introduced the Apapa corridor. All of these are to bring sanity into, streamlining how they enter to pick the products. But at the point of picking, even the customs, even the police, the FRSC, LASTMA, a whole lot of them ought to be, and they are always at the point of picking the products. But see, this thing is, the truck owners and drivers are just a point of the wheel of the economy. So we need to also understand that they are as effective as we want them to be. Now, if the government decides to shut down and close up all vehicles that are not totally compliant with its regulations, about 90% of those vehicles will be off the road. Then we'll be back to the pressure, because the pressure will come almost immediately, because we will not have the products. Those of us that are consuming the products will not have them at the point of sale. So that is why most of the time the rules are bent if you, there are trucks you see that they only have one headlamp. There are those that you even will be seeing the engine, the propellers, and all of that. They are in terrible shapes. Many of them are almost getting to the end of life of the vehicle itself. So these are challenges that, and if you want to buy a new one now, we almost know it's close to about 150, 200 million. Who can pull that kind of money down now and get a fleet of it? So those are the challenges that we're having to cope with, and that we will cope with for some time in the future. Why do I say that? I say that because it's just almost, it's a guess thing that the economy is not going to come more friendly soon. So we're likely going to have to cope with what we're having. And for as long as we continue to cope with this, we continue to have the back end of it in terms of having to cope with, accidents and all of that. The vehicles they're having now, you're not supposed to even, once you load the content and you clamp it, it's supposed to have a pressure point that once it's locked, it locks the content in the containers, in the tanks, so it does not spill over. But because essentially what you have on the roads are even put together by roadside contractors. Many of them will just buy the head, take it to a contractor to help them fix the tanks. And so you don't really have experts handling the structure that you are using to take these things in the first place. So anytime it tips, of course the content follows suit. And again, there's a whole lot of issues in it. Even the insurance systems, are we really even sure now that those insurance companies are still willing to take on insurance on this kind of thing with the rate at which they tip and the cost crisis, the cost tragedy with the explosions and all of that. So there are so many legs to it. But essentially, like I said, because they are agents of the economy, they are propellers of the wheel of progress for the nation's economy. There is that allowance that agents of government are given to them so that they do not rupture the system and then put all of us in chaos. And I think that is what we are getting the ripples of. But maybe by the time the economy really peaks, and then, or maybe if the government can give some subventions, after all, they gave aviation some years ago, so operators in the aviation sector were given some lifeline. Maybe if operators in the maybe members of the unions operating, lifting the oil, maybe they could also enjoy something from the government so that they'll be able to refleet and phase out these end-of-life vehicles that are causing crisis here and there, so that we get back to having our lives back again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adeyinka. I think safety is one issue we should never compromise. And irrespective of what the state of the economy is, everything should be done to make sure that these products are transported in a safe and secure environment for the benefit of the society. But again, the major source of this problem is that at the loading point, a lot of issues are being compromised, and that should be nipped in the bud quickly, because there's an agency of NNPC that's supposed to be at that loading shed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
So if FRSC,
Yeah.
NNPC, and other agencies, if they do their job as is expected, we should have a reduction. Yes, the private sector man who is now into production of petroleum products in our country has decided to import CNG driven trucks. Beautiful. And you see, his own trucks are standard. You need to invest money to make money. There is no way to just change the society when you're talking about safety. And this is what government should do. Well, this issue is an ongoing discussion because the way things are today, yes, government is coming, then again, there should be a clement environment for more private sector people to come into this.
Exactly.
So that we have people ready to import standard trucks. Then most importantly, government should play our own part by making sure that roads are motorable and roads are properly monitored. Controller of works should not sit in their air-conditioned offices. They should monitor all these roads. That this every trucks, either articulated coming from the ports, either those coming from the tank farms, either those coming from the private refineries, the roads that they ply, they should be constantly monitored to see the state of these roads.
Yeah.
So that before a small pothole becomes a gorge, it will have been refilled and repaired. And then these are the things government and government specifically and the public should alert them, so that before roads fall into a state of big disrepair, urgent steps will have been taken. Adenike Adegbe, again, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you all the time on Transport Line.
The leadership of the two most important commands of the Nigeria Customs Service, NCS, in terms of revenue generation, Apapa and Tinkan Island Port, recently went on an enlightenment visit to the National Association of Government-Approved Freight Forwarders, NAGAFF, and the League of Maritime Editors, LOME. First, Comptroller Babatunde Olumo of Apapa Port, who led his management team to the national headquarters of NAGAFF to seek further support and cooperation in the quest to remain the highest revenue earner of the Nigeria Customs Service. According to CAC Olumo, Apapa Port in the first half of the year has netted 1.73 trillion naira.
As you know, Odogu is work in progress. And your members' participation in the various training sessions is noted as part of our building blocks for homegrown and sustainable customs modernization in Nigeria. The NAGAF Academy, where you have the training freight forwarding professionals, is a loud statement. It speaks to the volume you place, to the value you place on the capacity building. You are an organization that thinks ahead, strategic, and we respect you for that. Your drive for capacity building is second to none among your peers.
Anybody who wants to see himself as a friend of the customs should be compliant. When you are compliant, that's the way you can support the administration. So we don't get to the level that every day we are fighting, we are quarreling. There's no need for that. And let me use this opportunity to explain to anybody that understands. The regime now is destination inspection. Destination inspection means customs examination. And that regime went further to say, make declaration by yourself. Assess yourself. And so if you have been given the opportunity to assess yourself, why do you now do to the contrary?
In a related development, Tin Can Island Ports Controller of Nigeria Customs Service, Frank Onyeka, was at the League of Maritime Editors for a roundtable parley. CAC Onyeka disclosed that Tin Can Island Ports in the first 6 months stated that the command believes in collectible revenue instead of maximum collectible. He noted that bonded terminals generally are revenue leakers.
Please continue to be your brother's keeper. Empathize with your fellow human being. Extend your hands of fellowship. Your actions, your deeds, and your humanitarian gestures will do it. That way, everybody will be able to meet its needs. Please be compassionate. Compassion is the key word. Till next time, bye-bye for now.